welcome to Crate Expectations. I'm Tom H.E. Kennedy, joined by Matt A.D. Carvalho, Chris B.A. Palumbo, and Dan N.G. Lozier. And today we are talking about...
loud noises!
Groovy Guys, second episode of the year. How is everyone? What's been going on?
I just want the listeners to know that I'm going to have the horns up the entire episode.
Excellent.
I'm going to keep my hands like this the whole time.
That wouldn't be awkward at all.
I'll have my hair down so I can get the hair.
Yeah, I was going to say mine's down today.
Oh yeah, Matt's. Holy shit, Matt, your hair is long today. Holy crap! I thought that was like a hat you were wearing
wig?
or something.
That's all
a wig,
good.
yeah.
So Matt wins the
just for the
headbang
Play It Loud
challenge.
episode.
Exactly.
So he wins the headbang challenge. I want to see some windmills later, Matt.
All right.
So we're talking about albums that are best played loud. Before we get into it, I've got some anecdotes on bands who like it loud from a little place I like to call the internet. So in 1969, Led Zeppelin brought an earthquake of sound to a tour of Canada, hitting an ear-shattering 130 decibels during a live performance of Heartbreaker.
Wow.
To give you an idea, for those non-amp heads out there, 70 decibels over a long period of time can cause damage. 120 decibels can cause immediate harm. And 130 is considered the threshold of pain.
Wow.
So just give you some idea of that Zepp tour. Earthquake of Sound. Grateful Dead built an enormous PA system in the 70s called the Wall of Sound. This was the largest concert sound system built to date. Dan, Matt, Chris, you probably have a better idea of this. I'm not as much of a gearhead as you guys, but it had 89 300-watt solid state and three 350-watt vacuum tube amplifiers.
350 watt
Wow.
tube amps?
Generating 26,000 watts of audio power.
Oh
it was
my
640 speakers.
That is
sound.
insanity.
That's crazy.
Let's talk about AC/DC. Angus Young, punk rock Chuck Berry at Nosebleed Volume. In 2015, like recently, the guy's in his 60s, 70s. The gig was so loud in Auckland that it could be heard 4 miles away.
Oh my
That's
God.
insane.
Wow.
Motorhead. Got to talk about Motorhead if we're talking about...
Have to.
We're talking about loud noises. They talk about loud, fast, raucous, speed freak rock and roll. That's what Lemmy referred to Motorhead as. And they lay claim to being the loudest band in the world, saying that their music was so loud, if they moved next door to you, your lawn would die.
That's a good line.
That is
That's
a good
awesome.
line.
Rest in peace, Lemmy.
Lemmy, what a
Prodigy.
legend.
Prodigy, one of my absolute favourites, took English EDM to new heights in the 90s, bringing that high-intensity electronic punk to huge festivals all around the world. Their sound system was rumoured to literally rattle skeletons in the audience and have the potential to bring down low-flying aircraft.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Believe it if you may. And then a couple of last little ones. Spinal Tap, so loud they turned their amps up to 11. Brick Tamland likes loud noises. And finally, the loudest band in the galaxy, Chris, this one's for you, is a plutonium rock band called Disaster Area, or so says Douglas Adams. So, let's kick this thing off. Chris, I just mentioned Douglas Adams, so you can start us off. Let's talk about PUP, Morbid stuff.
All right. This was tricky because I like to listen to music really loud. Like I love loud music, especially in the car.
Oh, the best.
So, yeah, for those who don't know, I drive a baby blue 2007 PT Cruiser.
You still have that car?
Oh, it's running on empty. Like I had to get it boosted yesterday because I have to get it boosted every day actually. But that's another story. But what I've done to this car is because there's room, and my wife and kid refuse to drive in it because it's so old and falling apart that I have shoved as many speakers in it as possible. So I think I'm now up to 12.
Nice.
I had two subs,
12
but I had
speakers?
yeah, in the PT.
In the
Yeah.
family cruiser.
In the family cruiser. I had to sell the two. I had two subs in the back, two 12-inch subs in the back, I had to sell those to get a new battery for the car because I refused to put any money into it. So it's just all speakers, no subs.
I wonder why you're replacing so many batteries in that car.
And two
a
amps in
mobile.
there.
Speakers and subwoofers.
Mobile
It's
public
all-
address system.
Yeah.
All DIY.
It's
It's
so good.
It wouldn't be Chris' car if it wasn't DIY.
yeah. No, yeah, wouldn't be. Anyway, but like, so I like to listen to music loud, and so picking this one out was pretty tough. And I was driving home the one day after talking to you guys, and I was debating like Rage Against the Machine. I was debating even Limp Bizkit slipped into my mind, and Korn, because
Yeah.
those bands are. I know they're I'm not even a Limp Bizkit fan really, but those bands loud. There's something about them.
Freak
this-
on a Leash at 11.
Freak on a Leash at 11.
don't get-
Yeah, I can
break
live
Full
with that.
Nelson.
Break stuff from Limp Bizkit on a 11
Yeah,
is
that's another
you
one.
can't not jump around.
Yeah, I agree.
It's something about it, but
But I'm
this
really
album-
glad you didn't pick that.
Oh, me too. Like I wouldn't
it's
have.
not
but
a
Hey,
those
if you
were-
did, I would have been
It's not a
on
Chris
board
pick.
for that for sure.
Oh,
I was a
don't
fan
know.
back in the day.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
so
back
was
in
I.
the day. Totally.
Yeah, so was I. But like, but this album, I can't listen to it quiet. Even if like I'm home and I put it on and I'm making dinner or my daughter's in the room, I find myself going up like to the amp and I'm like turning it up a little by little, and then eventually it's like, oh, this is too loud. Like I have to turn it down, right? Like the windows start shaking, and you just feel this like inner turmoil from this band, and there's nothing you can do. It's just solid songs after solid songs. Now I'm gonna say this is classic Canadian kind of pop punky punk. Even some of their songs are like a little more hardcore. I think Dan might debate me on that one a little bit.
I might.
But it's this.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about
Yeah,
that real quick.
okay.
So you're saying pop punk.
Yes.
I think I said last week like aggressive Weezer. And
Yes,
Dan,
you did, yeah.
Dan, what's your take? Is this pop punk?
Man, like, I guess you could kind of. I guess it's like I'd say it's towing the line of pop punk. The thing that it's missing for me to say it's punk is the classic punk drum line. I don't get that in this music. Like this has actually to me has such a distinctive, like, I would almost call it like Canadian punk, like can punk,
Yeah.
which is very distinctive to like punk rock
But
or
I
pop
think-
punk, because it misses that drum line, and it almost like it sounded like a Hey Rosetta album to me minus the folk.
Oh, okay. All right. Which is kind of what drew me to it. It's not your classic everything sounds the same kind of
Yeah.
punk rock. They take that pop punk or punk rock, or even some of their songs are kind of emo with like the way the emotion are coming through, and they spin it. I guess you're right with that kind of can rock attitude, or even that can rock like riff cycles that
So
they
like
do.
the emo and hardcore,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
for sure has emo and hardcore.
It's got a bit of alt, it's alt rock.
Alt,
Even a
yeah.
bit. I kind of listening to it. I was even. And this sounds weird. I was getting Arcade Fire vibes from some of it.
indie rock for sure. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
Oh,
of
yeah. Indie rock is huge. Now, the interesting thing is, and maybe this is, I consider them punk because this isn't my first album listen by them, right? I've listened to like most of their stuff through the years, and if you go back further, you hear more of those punk roots in their songs, and even some variations of these songs that they put out on EPs are a little more punky, which is kind of cool. But I think they nailed it with this album. Like the sound comes through, the emotion comes through, and you just have to, like, you have to turn it up. You can't. I find myself like screaming at the top of my lungs at certain lines, which is very
Awesome.
hard for me to do. Like,
With a small
lately
child in
with-
the house.
yeah, well, even
No,
outside,
he's
like I
listening to it
found
in
I
the
was
car.
in the car or like with my headphones in, I was like doing like, I don't know, gardening, and I'm just like all of a sudden I'm just like screaming a line outside, and I'm like, oh,
Chris
like,
in this-
you catch yourself, right? And I was like, no, this is it. This is my play it loud album.
This is like a scene from a movie where a guy's having a midlife crisis and he's like trimming the hedge in the garden, listening to this aggressive music really loud.
Next thing you know, the hedge is like half as short in one section.
Oh boy.
So like Chris, honestly, the first, it's funny that you talk about listening to loud music in the car, because the first time I listened to this album was while I was driving, and it was like, oh shit, I gotta crank this up a little bit harder. I love this album from start to finish. It was so good. Like, don't get me wrong on my pretentious trying to recategorize the genre of the music, but like I don't really care what the genre is. It was a phenomenal album, and it is something that you have to listen to loud. Like, it had some heavy portions to it. It's a solid pick, man. I like it, and a band I've never heard of until you introduced it to me. So that's
Likewise.
I'm really glad you picked this one for Play It Loud. Very unconventional pick.
Right, and I thought it deserved a run at it. And I like how you said, like, you need to listen to it loud even during, like, some of the songs that are more, like, breakdown songs. So, yeah, it's See You at Your Funeral, which ends, like, really emotionally. And then the next song after that is called Scorpion Hill. And it's just that very, like, mystic, like, just words coming in to the song. And it just ends, like, suddenly and starts suddenly. And it's a very cool transition, but it doesn't feel forced. It feels like, I don't know who mixed this, if it was the band or their producer, but whoever put the album and the songs in order, I think that's what led to this album being so good. It works so well from start to finish.
Yeah, there's
which,
really
again,
good flow.
Yeah,
it's got
again,
a
which
great
I
flow.
find I've been struggling lately. I tend to skip a lot, and on this album, I wasn't skipping very many. I do a lot more now, especially on Spotify, when I'm driving and things. If I want to get amped up, I'll skip a couple. But yeah, I agree with you, Dan, on that sense. It does a good job on so many levels.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I almost felt like listening to this, it kind of tells a story. That's the kind of vibe I got from it. It was great. I love one of my favorite riffs on the entire album is Kids. As soon as that starts off and then the drums kick in, I'm like, yep, turn it up.
Yeah,
Totally.
like,
You just got to
I'm-
turn it up.
There's some really strong lyrics on this record too, which I absolutely love. I love when songs are really, really lyric driven. They're really emotional, and that also really dragged me into this record. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I feel, Matt, when you're saying lyric driven, there's a couple. That's what actually got me onto this band. I think it was like I put them on Spotify randomly, and one of the lines that caught me was, like how can I can't even support myself? How can I support my kids?
That's a good one.
And like my wife was pregnant at the time, and I was like, it's the middle of the pandemic. I don't have a job because like the schools are shut down.
Yeah.
Like my wife is working from home on a bouncy ball because we didn't have a desk chair. Right? We're like, what is going on? And then I just like got
What am
sucked
I
in.
doing?
You're the man, Professor!
You're the man if you stay in school, JJ.
All right.
All right, you.
Yeah, what am I doing? Yeah, like we weren't expecting. Yeah,
Wow.
It was just like chaotic, and this is the perfect kind of record for the pandemic. I think I was discussing it with Tom earlier. I call it like socioeconomic punk or like socioeconomic rock, where it's like this middle class society where they feel like they've done everything that they've been told to do, and it still doesn't work.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, where old school punk seems to be more like we're doing everything we're not told to do, and
We're saying
we're
fuck
gonna
the
make
system.
it work. Right? Where this was
man.
like we tried the system and we still got fucked.
That's a really great insight, Chris.
Yeah, well, it's like if I got a lot of like they're talking a lot about anxiety and depression and like death,
yeah,
which like fits exactly into that theme.
Yeah, it's a real pick me up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it is. It was, yeah. but honestly, sometimes I treated it as a pick me up, where I'm like, I treated it as a way to get my emotions out, which was why I was outside
Yeah.
screaming it,
At
into
the
the
hedge.
void.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the
but,
hedge.
like,
It's tomato plants. I wonder
find
they
for-
didn't grow this year.
The thing is though is that like the themes in the music are about anxiety and depression and death, which are like some of the darkest themes of humanity. But it takes art like this to be able to talk about it, to be able to lift you out of that space, right?
And it's actually high tempo and high energy
Yeah,
music.
sometimes-
It's not droning. It's like it gets you amped.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sometimes you need that high energy and to be able to scream to let that anxiety and that depression come out of you, right?
Yeah. Which
And
I
that
think
totally does it. This
for
album
sure.
rocked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mate, great pick. Like I'd never heard of them and I'd never listened to them, and I put it on and I was driving too. It's weird. We all listened to it while we were driving in the car.
That's great.
And I had to crank it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn it up to 11.
Yeah, this is a turn it up to 11 kind of album. Now, I've never seen them live because when I discovered them, I bought tickets and then the pandemic happened. And then when I tried to buy tickets in May, it sold out really quick. They got a pretty good following here. So hopefully when things slow down a bit, I'll get to see them. I did read on their Instagram page about a month ago that they went through some hard times during the pandemic. They put out like an EP called This Place Sucks Ass. And I wasn't actually a big fan.
Great
kind
title,
of sound. Yeah, it's a great title, great artwork. This band does really fun, quirky artwork that I really enjoy. I got a band tee because I tried to support them during the shutdown and all that.
Right on.
But I feel like they finally made. So you heard with this album they got successful, and then the next album they're putting out, because they're known for these kind of dark undertones, but and aggressive riffs, you could hear that they were kind of happy doing this, but trying to not be happy in their music, and it didn't come across very well. And they almost broke up over it. Recently.
Fighting their
nature, right? So which was interesting. And then now they put out a couple more songs, and they're a lot better. So I'm excited to see what their next album is. Hopefully,
It's coming out soon.
Hopefully, it's more. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah,
In May?
soon, and I think it's May. Yeah. I remember seeing a couple things. I looked it up a couple weeks ago, and I'm just gonna it did pop up like pre-order now, so you know it's coming.
I was gonna say the vinyl's up for pre-order.
Yeah, so I'm
So
definitely
Matt's got 2 of them on back order.
One for collecting, one for listening.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're goddamn right.
So we'll see. I hope it's not as overproduced. I feel like
I thought the
hit their
production
fame.
quality on Morbid stuff was
Perfect.
amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
It was like
they don't
just-
need any more than that.
Very
Just
seamless.
produce your four instruments.
That's what gave me the Arcade Fire vibes, was just like you're listening to it, and instrumentation, excellent, production, excellent. The way, as you said, the tracks were seamless. You know, it told a story. You went on a journey. Just a banger, Chris. Great choice.
It is. And you know what? I really hope they can keep it up, or they can at least coast for a bit, and then maybe find something new or creative to come into this.
There's always something to feel shit about.
Oh wow, they won a Juno album for that for Morbid stuff.
Oh, wow.
Did they? Yeah, I know they won.
nice.
They've won a couple things.
Alternative album of the year.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
What?
it's easily so good.
What's your track to? You got one track to get people hooked. What is it?
I think we'll go with Sibling Rivalry.
Great
I like
choice.
Sibling. I like that song. It tells a story. It's angry, but you sing along really, really easy to sing along to, right? You can pick out like a chorus that you know is going to come next, which is that pop punky feel, and you can just scream it. And even if you have no idea what the rest of the song's about, you can at least enjoy that section. So I'm going to go with Sibling Rivalry. So yeah, check it out.
Awesome.
Morbid stuff.
Check it out and crank it.
Good
Crank
stuff.
Just right through the bullshit. Don't test my patience.
Matt, you kind of got some Slash vibes going on there with those long locks. What?
Man, that was completely
It is a
unintentional.
wig. It is.
missing. We're
that
just
a top
missing.
hat?
Just missing
No.
a top hat.
I don't have one.
What do you? I feel like that was a natural segue. What do you have for us, Matt?
So for mine, I'm going Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I feel like this is a quintessential album every rock fan's got to have. This is when you listen to it as loud as you possibly can.
Turn it up to 11.
Are you saying
Yeah.
I'm not a rock fan, Matt?
I was just about to say, I could tell by the look on your face, Dan, you're unimpressed. I know you're a huge rock fan, but I know this isn't your cup of tea.
No.
But I love this record. I don't know. Do you guys know any history about like the recording of this album?
I'd actually love to hear about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
So-
too. I have no idea.
Okay, so second question before I get into it. Have any of you read any of the books written by any members of the band?
Definitely
sir.
not.
Okay, so I've read Slash's book, and he dives pretty deep into the recording of this record, getting into like the production, like going to the studio late night, all that kind of fun stuff. One thing or a couple of things that kind of stick out to me is when they were finally finished recording this album, the mixing of it was actually quite intense. Like they had, I think it was one or two guys at the mixing console, like doing fader rides up and down for every song, the solos, like different sections of the song, you name it. It was quite intense, and apparently it took quite a long time. Another kind of fun story with this one, for the song Rocket Queen, when you hear the girl moaning throughout the end of the song, during the recording process, they wanted to get an authentic experience, so to speak. So what they did was the whole recording crew like lit candles, made a nice little environment in the recording studio in the booth. And Axel brought his girlfriend that he had in at the time, and they had a nice time together. So all that is Axel and his girlfriend making love during that. And that made the record. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Imagine you're listening to
That's
that.
awkward.
Yeah.
That must have been so awkward for the guys, like the engineers and stuff.
Yeah.
Nah, they were just high. They were probably
A lot of coke.
a lot of coke.
Yeah,
I can see a lot of coke.
I think this was right before they got
80s.
like really, really heavy into the drugs.
Oh.
So they were just like sort of normal level drugs, not like insane Guns N' Roses level drugs.
Yeah, if memory serves me right, I don't think they had I don't think they dove that deep into it yet. I think it was
Just
more
coke,
like
not heroin.
it was more like the drinking and just the partying. I think that's where they were at that time.
Well, I gotta say, I know I'm pretty hard on Guns N' Roses during our band that you can't get into.
No, what?
What? I thought you liked them.
But you know, the thing is that this music gets played all the time, right? And
Yeah.
80s rock, I've just never been able to get into. It's like the flashy riffs and the heavy sound and the big solos. So like what I did was, I don't remember the last time I've listened to this whole album front to back, and I don't actually think I have ever listened to the whole thing until last week when I listened to do it just for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a great album. Like it's objectively.
Look at damn.
Objectively, like I'm not a fan of Guns N' Roses, but
You're going to trip over if you keep walking back this fast.
no, I listened to it with an objective mind to say, is this a good album? Like, yeah, they're obviously a really good rock band. Like, Slash is a really good guitarist, and the songs are really well written. You know, there was a moment that I really love is in Welcome to the Jungle when they have that breakdown.
Oh, I love that.
That to me is like, it's really, really good music, but yeah. Objectively, great album. That's where I'll keep it.
That's
this
fair.
retraction is
I
brought
feel
to you
like-
by Dan Lozio.
Honestly, I feel like this album itself could be a greatest hits. Like, there's so many
Totally.
bangers off this album, start to finish.
For a debut album to be that
It's
strong.
huge. I
That's
think it's like
crazy,
the
eh?
seventh best debut album or selling album of all time, something like that.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm much like Dan. I hadn't listened to it all the way through for a long time, mostly because I had like a Gunner's Greatest Hits CD when I was in high school, and I used to listen to it in my car all the time, and I just got to the point of like overconsumption of Guns N' Roses, and then probably Y108 Rocks also ruined it for me.
I feel like, unfortunately, you know, any rock radio station kills all the big songs on this record, and they're great records, but when you're hearing them 2-3 times a day, sometimes, you know, hearing them 5 times on the radio a week, it gets a bit much.
Yeah, like Sweet Child of Mine, that riff, as soon as you hear it, you're just like, oh my God, I've heard this so many times. But there are so many bangers on this album, and you have to turn it up loud.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah,
Tom,
great
I love how
choice
you,
for loud, yeah.
yeah. Tom, I love how you say you're sick of it and you had like the greatest hits in your car. This album, I think I mentioned it when we were talking Guns N' Roses before, is banned at my uncle's cottage because when I discovered Guns N' Roses, I went up there and I only brought one CD. And the whole
Appetite for
weekend,
Destruction.
and the whole weekend it just played to the point where I still think so. If Uncle Sam, if you're listening out there, I remember you still can't listen to Guns N' Roses anymore because I just killed it over and
drilled
over and over. Especially Sweet Child of Mine. I'm pretty sure I just hit you know, on the old CD players, you could be like repeat once.
Yeah.
I'm just pretty sure I clicked it like 30 times. And it just kept going.
Would you say that gave Uncle Sam an appetite for destruction?
Oh boy.
We can.
Sorry.
We should,
I'll show myself out.
yeah.
Don't play that section loud, guys.
Yeah. What's great
Matt,
about this record too is like, I feel like any song on this album could have been a single. Like all the songs are really strong. It's like there's no throwaways on this record.
Or killer, no filler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Night Train.
I love Night Train.
I kind of forgot about this song. Like I was again on my way home from work, and then I got home and I didn't finish the song, and I came in and put it on, and no one else was home, so I turned it up, and I was like, Night Train it gets you fired up.
Yeah.
What a I forgot the
Out to Get Me is another one. I love that song.
And then back to back on this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like one
You
after
Could
the
Be
other.
Mine.
Mr. Brownstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys, Mr. Brownstone, I love that
I
song.
love that song.
Yeah.
These guys at the peak of their powers at a massive festival, like
crazy.
Would have been insane to be in the mosh for one of those gigs.
So
It would have been cool.
that's another fun fact in the book is like Slash goes into like how they were like notoriously late for shows, like hours late, not 15, 20 minutes, like hours late. And most of it was driven by Axl. Like he just wouldn't show up, or he would just refuse to go on stage. Like he gets pretty deep into the book. It's pretty interesting stuff. If you guys have any interest at all, I definitely recommend it. It's a good read.
I have heard Slash's book is quite good.
Yeah, it is really, really good.
I think there's a theme and a connection between the bands that I really don't like. Egotistical frontmen.
Yeah, there you go.
Like I saw Velvet Revolver live, and they were like 3.5 hours later, whatever
Yeah,
it was.
that was their thing.
That's that might as well be Guns N' Roses
Yeah.
with a different singer. Well, it is Guns N' Roses with a different singer, but anyway. But yeah, I hate that idea of like make the crowd wait because they deserve to.
No, it's annoying.
Yeah, not a fan.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Big time.
But I also, especially back then, and the hype, and it goes to your head. I understand like the ego with it. It's not justified, but I understand it, and that also adds to this record. Like knowing this is like their first record out, knowing that they're that popular, like that must go to your head. I would be a horrible human being if that ever happened to me. Like, and I will be the first one to admit that. Like, I would have been Axl Rose on like times a million.
It's not hard to get to that point though. Like the lifestyle's intoxicating, right?
Yeah.
Especially 80s rock and roll scene.
Yeah.
The drugs, the partying,
Hedonistic.
the women. Everyone wants to be your best friend.
Yeah.
The money, you have all the money in the world to do whatever you want.
And these guys are at LA too, so that's all around them. You know what I mean? Like they're like,
exactly. You're friends with celebrities. Like
Yeah.
just peak.
like
toxic
everything is at your
humanity was the
fingertips. You can
80s.
get anything you want at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
I think these guys are like, when I think of like rock stars,
These
like,
guys.
true rock stars. This is kind of this is kind of like Motley Crue's up there.
I was
a
gonna
little
say
bit,
Motley
but-
Crue's got to be in that conversation.
But these guys are what I picture all around. If you're talking rock stars, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
They're still rock stars today. If you talk about Slash or something or Axl Rose, people still get all like they're not in the mainstream media, but they are rock stars through and through.
Oh, yeah.
I would argue that
They're celebrities.
Celebrities, yeah. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that archetype of rock star is something to be idolized. Like,
No, not at
Oh,
all.
I'm not saying that.
there's a lot
Some
of deep
people love it
flaws.
though.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they just what they did
But they are
extreme.
Yeah.
they are rock stars in the popular culture sense.
And it's
for sure.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like these guys still sell out shows like it's nothing. And now that they got most of the original line back, like have any of you guys seen like Slash when he was by himself, or sorry, not by himself, but doing his own thing with his own band and stuff like that? Or
No.
Okay, so I saw them back in 2013 when it was Slash with the Conspirators. Great show. The bassist for the band did all the vocals for the majority of the Guns N' Roses song, and he did a really good rendition, which isn't easy because Axl Rose has quite the range. His version of Out to Get Me was actually really fucking good. And then I saw them when they reunited, and they showed up on time, so that was good. But great fucking show. Like they played everything you would expect them to play. It was phenomenal. Like it's something special to see all those guys come back together, even whether they like each other or not, whether it's for the money, whatever. It's something special to see all those guys get into it and do their thing. Like just watching Slash like play and shred is unbelievable. The guy is just like dripping sweat. He's hitting all of his notes. He
is fun.
Yeah.
He's so effortless on the guitar. Too.
Exactly. And it really comes out on stage. He does a great rendition of the Godfather theme, which is just so cool. It just adds a really cool vibe to the show.
He has this way of like smoking a cigarette still.
Yeah.
And he's still
classic.
Okay. I know, like, not condoning smoking, but holy crap, I get why people are like smoking's cool, because Slash makes it look
really cool.
so.
Yeah, he does.
He does this thing.
Relic hole.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he like it sticks to his lip, and it's just like
It just
it's
hangs.
like 90% ash,
Yeah.
and he's just like soloing, and then goes, and like so
Yeah.
and then what he does is he flicks it into the crowd, and people go after his like cigarette
Yeah.
butts. It's,
Gross.
Oh my God.
it's gross, but like that's what I mean by this rock star mentality. Yeah, Matt, I get it.
Yeah.
So Matty, I know it's hard because, like you said, there's every track's a single. But which single song? So you find that one person on earth who hasn't heard a song from this album before. What song are you using to get them hooked?
So I'm going no singles. I'm going Out to Get Me. That's probably
Really?
like that's if it's not my favorite record on the album, it's definitely right behind it. Like it, I love this record.
Oh, I thought you were going Sweet Child of Mine for sure.
No, I want something hard. I want something heavy. I want something that I can crank, and that one to me is right up there.
Turn it up loud.
All right, good. Okay. Way to be.
All right, we're going to travel back in time now from the 80s to the 70s. Get in the time machine. 70s, right, Dan? Is that where we're going?
Yeah.
All right.
You're wearing a really tight t-shirt, probably gray or white, with a pair of really skinny jean denims. The shirt's tucked into the denim. No belt tuck.
Don't need it. Pants too tight.
Your hair's long. You're sitting in your older brother's muscle car. He pops in an 8-track of this.
Right on.
What's playing? Highway Star. Machine Head, Deep Purple, baby.
Man.
And your brother's cranking it to 11. Had to pick this album. This is like some of the first, I would say, heavy metal that I used to listen to back in the day.
Some of the first heavy metal, period.
Yeah. So this is an
yeah.
album introduced by my dad, and this anecdote that I had painted for you is kind of how my dad first listened to it, which was
So
in
good.
my uncle Don's Roadrunner 8-track tape. The two of them blasting this.
Oh,
Cranked
And,
to 11.
Yeah. I mean, this. I
can picture it.
I love this album so much. The first song I listened to on this album was Lazy.
Okay.
And I remember my dad introduces this song to me, and Chris, I'm sure you love that song because it just starts with all pure organ.
yeah.
And
Big
it's just
fan.
a slow build up, and then the guitar pops in, and it just turns into this 7-minute epic, which is just really, really heavy guitar playing, really, really heavy organ playing. And it wasn't until after I listened to that song that I started going through the whole album that I realized that Smoke on the Water was on this. Because I had no idea. This is my introduction to Deep Purple.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I mean, this to me is like it's an essential in any record collector's collection if you collect rock and roll, especially classic rock. I would say it's got to be in like your top 10. If you have to pick one album per band, and you have to take 10 albums of classic rock, and you can't have doubles from any band, this has to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Spot on, Dan. Like, this has to be the Deep Purple album, for sure.
It has to be.
And, like, as soon as you started talking about it, John Lord's solo from Highway Star just, like, inserted itself in my brain.
good. So good.
That organ on that album is just like it takes heavy to a different universe, a different dimension. It's amazing.
The way that the organ, like the gain on the organ, when the volume starts to crank on it, it's just to me that's the best part of the album.
If you type into YouTube John Lord organ, there's like heaps of videos of tutorials of how to get your keyboard to sound like John Lord.
Oh,
that's so cool.
That's so sick.
Yeah, I love it.
It's such an iconic sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm learning a lot about myself in the music scene these days, and I had discovered I had never listened to this album front to back.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm right
you're
there
never
with
a
you,
big
Chris.
classic rock guy, right?
See, I thought I like when people ask me, I like the Who, I like some of the Stone stuff, but again, I was all listening to like greatest hits or what's on the radio.
Yeah.
And I knew like some of these songs, but again, I was like putting it on while doing things. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know, like a couple of these songs were like, oh, it's on this album?
Yeah.
I knew it was
Yeah.
Deep Purple,
Yeah.
but I didn't know they were on this, like...
It's almost
Space,
the greatest hits as well.
It may
right?
as well
Like
be.
Space Truckin' came
Space
on.
Truckin',
And I
yeah.
was
I think
just
that's
like, oh man, I
Such
love
an
this
underrated
song.
song on this album.
Big time. Big
It's
time.
my
Come on.
favorite on this album.
Come on. Oh, yeah, man. So good.
I
This is a headbanger. You can't listen
Yeah.
to this album and not bang your head.
Yeah, I agree.
like-
Oh, no.
But, and again, I think we had, because we were part of Columbia House. John Palumbo was part of Columbia House. So we always used to just get like, you remember those old CDs that was like the 20th century best of?
Oh, yeah.
And then it would have the album. Like those. So we always had those. So that's how I had most of my music, like to listen to rather than going with the album. So when I dove into this, I was like super excited to be like, okay, I missed out again. Like this is like another black hole in my classic rock like vocabulary. Was this album? And I've been listening to it all week.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You
great.
gotta find a copy for your collection, man. It's like
Yeah, man.
do you know what? It's on my
essential.
list now. I would argue it is essential. It's my speakers that I have. I don't think will do it justice. I need to, my speakers are okay. The receiver I don't think can pump up enough power to make this pump enough.
Yeah,
But,
you got to
yeah.
crank.
You gotta
You
crank.
got to
Yeah, you
crank.
gotta. Yeah,
And when you want to talk about driving music,
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
if you
Highway
want
Star.
like the ultimate record to listen to while you're driving and you want to play it loud, this is it.
Yeah.
Yo, keep on trucking in the PT.
I want to see something that stacks up to this for driving music.
And this, when we're talking about, like, when you dig back into classic rock and you look at the foundations of rock music today and heavy metal and metal, I mean, there's a band called Machine Head that are a metal band. Like, this is an influential album.
Mm-hmm.
This is early heavy metal. This is in the 70s, so this would have been so heavy.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
70s. You've just come out of Flower Power and they're dropping this? Like, what?
Think of all the other bands.
Mind blowing.
Like
Yep.
CCR, was considered heavier, right?
It's man, I'm so glad this was on the list. It is definitely essential listening.
Yeah.
But these guys, what's crazy is that this is not a debut album. This is like their 6th or 7th album
Yeah.
that they put out.
Wait, what?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
so
like
this-
number
Yeah.
6 for them.
Yeah, so
No
it had been a
shit.
few albums, and the problem that they were having was they were so well known for their live performances and how great the tone and the vibe was in their live performances, but they hated the fact that they couldn't get that same vibe on their studio albums.
Interesting.
So they really made a conscious effort to like we got to really polish our next album up so that we sound like we do while we're on stage, and they nailed it with this one.
Oh, did they ever?
Yeah.
So again, me being naive to the whole Deep Purple thing, is there earlier albums this heavy, or are they more like softer rock, or
They're still like
Different.
They're pure rock and roll, but they're not as
Okay.
I would say they're not as heavy as this. Like I'd say this is like
did this define
this
their
defined
kind of sound?
This did not only define. No, I wouldn't say it defined their sound. This made them iconic.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good call.
This is they had a different. They've gone through numerous lineup changes too, Chris. Like
Yeah.
But John Lord and Richie Blackmore and Ian Pace were probably the backbone. That was the constant. But they've had different singers. Like this was a different singer to their earlier work.
But like the real point is like they were never really iconic before this, but this didn't really just define their sound, but it defined a sound. Like,
that's a good way to put it.
It really pushed the rock and roll scene in the early 70s to where heavy metal eventually really started taking hold in the late 70s and early 80s. A lot of it was inspired by this record.
Yep, spot on.
Yeah, and you can hear it. Like when I'm listening to these songs, you hear it. You even hear like the essence of almost riff rock or like like early 2000s, that generation of riff rock. You hear it in this, right? Like you can see the inspiration and how it's shared in that.
But it's also like right in the middle of like the 60s and 70s, right? Where like it came out of the 60s where it was like very poppy rock and roll, psychedelic, with the organ and the big solos, right? And then it went into like heavy duty.
Yeah, these guys, and I mean Zeppelin, Sabbath, these guys, they're pioneers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. As soon as I heard this album front to back, I was like, I get it. Like, I get it. I missed it. I'm going to have to add this to my collection.
Yeah. You got a headbang.
I got a headbang.
Just one more bit of trivia before I get into my absolute essential song. When they performed at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland, just before Frank Zappa was playing, there was a fire at the Montreux Casino. And the smoke over the lake is the inspiration for the song Smoke on the Water.
So cool.
The lyrics are literally like him telling the story of exactly what happened. Yeah.
And it became their most iconic song. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 So what's your pick, Dan? What are you getting? What are you throwing out there to get people hooked on this if they haven't heard it?
It's going to have to go with the first song I ever listened to from them too, Lazy. It's my favorite
Right.
Deep Purple song.
Another deep cut.
It's my favorite Deep Purple song, and that song gets me hyped up every time I listen to it. The intro is just pure perfection.
Nice. All right, Tom, you're next up. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm so glad that Dan brought the Deep Purple Machine Head vibe, because my pick is contemporary, and it's Australian, shock horror. But it is a throwback to the early heavy metal sort of foundations of thrash. It's really an homage to the pioneers of heavy metal. So I'm going, and this must be turned up to like 12 or 15,
12,000.
like higher, like as loud as it can go.
The 12 speakers in the PT couldn't keep up with it.
Exactly. So my pick is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Infest the Rat's Nest.
Who would have guessed?
Big pick.
This is thrash metal. I've seen it described as sci-fi thrash metal about climate change, and essentially, side A is sort of current state of play, ecological disaster, and a bit of looking forward, and then side 2 is like a sci-fi story about some Earth rebels who try and colonize Venus. Just your standard King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard album.
Just an incredible journey.
Same shit, different genre.
Yeah.
It's but these guys are incredible. I mean, I've talked about them ad nauseum, but they're prolific, they're eclectic, they're super creative, and it just feels like every post's a winner with these guys. This was the album that got me into them, just because I am a headbanger. I listened. This was my most listened to album last year. Planet B was my most listened to song last year. I listened to this on repeat. I bought it on vinyl. The day after I saw them live for the first time, I went to the record store and I just said, I got to have this album. I spin it all the time. It is, as I said, like I think Stu McKenzie, the band leader, is a a headbanger from way back. He loves his classic heavy metal. He loves his Deep Purple. He loves his Motorhead. He loves his Sabbath. Loves his Zeppelin, etc. And you could almost pick a different song in this album. Each one you could suggest a different band that could have played it or that it could have been influenced by. There's a lot of Deep Purple vibes. There's a lot of Motorhead vibes. There's a lot of Metallica vibes.
Sabbath.
Slayer, Sabbath, Sleep. Like if you love that era of heavy metal, it's unreal.
Yeah, the idea of the influences coming through. That's what I loved about this album. I was telling you guys earlier in the chat, I was into King Gizzard for a while, and now I'm finding myself kind of slipping. But what I noticed, and I can't remember what song it was, but I just had like I listened to everything through on our playlist, and then I just put it on random as I was doing something. And one of the songs started, I was like, oh, this is Deep Purple. And then the lyrics came in, and I was like, holy crap, like that could have fit with a different singer into the Deep Purple album, like
totally.
perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't like the Greta Van Fleet argument we had where it felt like a complete ripoff.
Yeah.
But it was like that distinct sound, and it works really well. And I was like, oh, this is cool. They really have developed the idea of how to use other bands' techniques and ideas to produce their own sound. And it is a very unique album. Like Metallica vibes, like the ones, crap, I can't, it's all blurring together, but it might be Superbug. It's like the one, it jumps out. I was like, oh, this is like, you can hear the different influences.
You can hear it,
Yeah.
And it's just like so cool the way they do it.
Well done.
I couldn't connect with the lyrics, which lately I've been struggling with. We've had this conversation before, but the guitar playing and the emotion and raw like musical talent is next level in this album.
They're intellectual artists, and they are such masters of their craft. And this album is kind of an island compared to the rest of their discography. Like there's a little bit of heavy stuff in some of their other albums, but there's no, like I thought they were like a thrash metal band when I heard this album. That was my first introduction to them, and I was like, oh wow, I just found a new metal band. How awesome. And then it's so different to everything else they do.
Right, which is why I struggled to get into them a little bit.
Yeah, but
Because it's like, why you're like, okay, I expect this, and it's something else, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I hate when bands pin themselves into a little corner. But also at the same time, I'm struggling to get through some of their stuff because of that as well.
Yeah, they're just unique.
On that point,
Not a bad thing.
On that point, like if this was not the first album I listened to by King Gizzard, but I'm not usually big into death metal, thrasher metal, period. But it's because of I'd listened to, I think I had 3 albums by them, and I got to this one on the 4th, where I was like, oh my God, these guys are really prolific musicians, that I had so much respect for the work that they did. And when I listened to it, I was like, man, I love this album. But it was exactly like you were saying. It was how well they made those homages to different bands that got me sucked in, where I heard there's the one song that sounds like a Sabbath song, and that other song that sounds like a Deep Purple song. I was like, this is the kind of metal music I can vibe with. And so a guy like me who would never put an album like this on period, I fell in love with it. And I did find like Venusian 1 and Venusian 2 being so similar kind of felt like the album was dragging a little bit at the end, which kind of lost me a little bit. But maybe it's just because it's not necessarily my flavor and my cup of tea. But
Side A is my preference.
Side A is
Side A is
incredibly
very
strong. It's really strong. The whole album as a whole is really good. I mean, it's only half an hour, so it's easy to get through. But man, like King Gizzard, they're
freaks.
They're amazing, man.
We need to change the name of this podcast.
The
King Gizzard Love Fest with the Groovy Guys.
I'm gonna switch sides. They're too cool.
I'm gonna stop talking about. I'm putting myself on a Giz ban for a while.
Okay, no more
After
Giz
this.
talk until next season.
No way. No way. What is this garbage?
I'm gonna kind of echo kind of what Dan shared there. Like I've never been one to kind of dive into like death or thrash metal whatsoever, and I might be the outlier here in the group. Like I it took me a bit to get through this album just because I felt like I had to be in the right headspace. But man, once I actually did, I was like, their creativity on this record really, really stands out. Like just how great of musicians they are really stands out. Like two songs in particular that struck me. Sorry, I just got to bring up the track list here because I forget the names. Mars for the Rich and Organ
Mars
Farmer.
for the Rich.
Man,
So
the
good.
guitar
That's
tones
the
on that
strongest songs,
and the
yeah.
riffs. Oh my God, they're incredible. And again, I felt like, man, you could drop this in any era, any decade, and it would be fresh.
Yeah.
Those songs,
and that's-
I really thoroughly enjoyed those records.
And honestly, I want to make that point too, where it's like the difference. And Chris, you made this comparison when you started talking about it with Greta Van Fleet and this being like almost like a copy of older music.
Yeah.
This is it's a play on the old music, but it sounds fresh, just like you said, Matt.
Yes.
Where they are
Whereas-
sonically on this album is fantastic. Like I love this sound.
Yeah.
Do you know
Whereas
what's amazing?
Greta Van Fleet feels like an actual copy.
Yes. Yeah, which is so much harder. These guys did it, and I feel like it's so
did it
much harder to do.
very well.
Which, again, it's not my favorite album, but I had like instant respect.
Yeah.
And I think you guys articulated that a lot better than I did. But yes, that's what I was trying to say, essentially.
What's really interesting when you talk about how they did it so well and it's really hard to pull off, and what they're doing in terms of the production of the album, they're normally they were a 7-piece, they're now a 6-piece. For the recording of this album, they were mostly a 3-piece.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
So
would
they
not
didn't even
have
use
guessed that.
half they didn't even use half their band.
That's insane.
I thought they were like a 5-6 piece band. Listening
Easily.
to this,
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
it's-
but this must have been a ton of overdubbing.
Oh, of
and-
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Stu, I mean,
I'd love to see the setup.
Yeah. Watch some stuff of them recording. So they started as a 7-piece. They had 2 drummers. The drummer, one of the drummers, Eric, left, and he now runs Flightless. Well, he started Flightless Records, which was their label. Is their label. And so he left to just run Flightless, and so now they're a 6-piece. But for this, for some reason, they just had like core members.
Very cool.
The one bit that you know, it is an homage, but if they hadn't got the vocal sound right, they wouldn't have pulled it off.
Yeah,
and
I
Stu
agree.
McKenzie just absolutely nails the vocals.
So deep.
He kills it. Yeah.
Yeah. So firstly, like, you have to crank this. I can crank this all day long. I can listen to this. I mean, I have to wait till my wife is out of the house if I want to listen to it on vinyl cranked.
Yeah.
But I listen to this in the car. I listen to this in the house. I listen to this on walks. Like, I just absolutely love this album.
Just before you get to your song, I just for the listeners and even for you guys, you got to check out not just the performance from this album, but I'm not sure if you guys ever catch the live performances on KEXP radio. It's this like smaller indie radio station in Seattle, and they always have really good bands playing full performances. And King Gizzard has 3 or 4 episodes on that radio show, and not just this like the songs from this album that they play, but from other albums. They're really, really solid live performances. They're all done in studio and well recorded, so I highly recommend
very
for
cool.
anybody.
Okay, I will check that
I
out.
checked it out. So I was tossing up 2 tracks for this, and it's interesting you guys all like Mars for the Rich. That's got that. That's one of those tracks where I instantly thought of Deep Purple. It's got that really groovy, sort of funky style to it.
Yeah.
But I have to go with my most listened to song in 2021, which may have been some sort of reflection of the mood of living through a pandemic. But Planet B is the song. If I want to get someone hooked on this album, I'll be playing them Planet B turned up to 100.
Nice.
Good pick.
All right,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
It's a banger off the start. And
Yeah.
it kicks off that album quite well. Yeah.
Side A is really, really strong.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Planet B sets the tone for sure.
Yeah.
Planet B.
Good stuff.
Open your eyes and see.
This kind of reminded me of Dave Grohl's passion project, Probot, where he did the same thing. He went and so wrote a bunch of songs based on the influences of music he loved growing up, which was a lot of heavy metal. And then the difference is he went and got the lead singers from those bands and they wrote the lyrics and recorded the vocals.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And there's
good.
Lemmy track. One of the singles was "Shake Your Blood," which was a Lemmy track, and it's a Motorhead song. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
That's awesome.
And then also, if you are a fan of Grohl and a bit of heavy metal, he's just announced that they're going to release this album by Dream Widow, which is the fictional demon band or whatever you want to call it in this new horror movie that they've just brought out. So the album that Dream Widow recorded that releases this hell demon or whatever that happens in the movie, he's going to release the actual album.
That's cool.
I just saw the trailer. It looks interesting.
It looks fun.
I don't know if it's going to be a hit, but I'm going to try and get my hands on that album.
Hopefully the album's good. The acting,
It looks really cheesy.
Oh,
Hey?
but it looks like it's supposed to be a cheesy horror movie, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like,
So maybe
kind
it'll
of-
work.
yeah, like look at Pick of Destiny, right?
Yeah.
They did such a good job, and it was cheesy on purpose. And at
Yeah.
first, I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like it. And then, man, that Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny is an unreal
It's
movie,
hilarious.
right?
So good.
So it'll be interesting to see that. And also, speaking of loud, Dave Grohl just came out about some issues he's having with his hearing.
Oh, really?
Oh, no
So-
way.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah. So I saw that a little bit. I just saw the kind of the headline. It was either yesterday or today when I was scrolling through Reddit
Shit.
there. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, well,
to see what comes of that.
You know when Tom, when you were going through like talking about the decibels and stuff and
Yeah.
how it affects.
Yeah.
I mean I have tinnitus and I'm a young guy. I'm 35 and I've been dealing with tinnitus for 10 years and it's 100% because of playing guitar and cranking the music, going to shows, standing next to the speaker, to the point now where even while I'm playing guitar in headphones, I have to put earplugs in because if I don't and I take my headphones off, like my ears feel like they're filled with mud. Like that's
You
how
gotta
bad
look after
tinnitus
yourself,
is.
man.
And so that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like for listeners, for anybody out there, like I'm personally worried. Like, and we're talking about Dave Grohl, who's a guy his life has been rock
Yeah.
and roll.
So turn it
can
up
only
to 11.
imagine.
Turn it up to 11, but do it responsibly.
Wear earplugs when you go to concerts, guys.
It's
Okay,
not.
so me and Matt went to a show not too long ago before they shut everything down for like the 17th time at History, right, Matt? It
Yeah.
was History.
History.
Yeah. That venue, the sound in that venue is crystal clear
Yeah.
and beautiful. Like
It was
one of
perfect.
That's awesome.
it was, which is hard to find. And
to hear that.
Monster Truck played, which is like a Hamilton riff rock band,
Yeah.
and they play loud. And then not Thornley, Big Wreck plays loud as well, and you could hear every note, you could hear everything.
Yeah.
And when we got home, my parents were looking after my daughter, and me and Matt got home with a couple other friends, and my parents were like, "Stop yelling!"
Yeah.
because me and Matt
really?
were fucking
Felt
screaming.
so bad.
Yeah, right. And the next morning, I woke up and I was still yelling, and I was like, "Okay, I need to go get earplugs."
Time to get earplugs.
Because like I couldn't hear for 3 days. So Dan, I feel you.
Wear earplugs. to
I love turning it
concerts.
up to 11, but downside, Dan, I don't think 35 constitutes young. I think it's middle aged.
Yeah, I think we're
this
getting
is
old.
the
It's young to lose your hearing.
For sure.
it is young to
To have,
lose,
to,
but
to have permanent tinnitus.
it is. But you know what? I think we're all in there because we all listen to our music loud. Thanks, PUP, Deep Purple.
Thanks, headphones.
Thanks, Giz. All right. I think
Slash.
I think we are well and truly ready for our next installment of the hot take.
Let's go.
Chris, you're moving house at the moment, so maybe we're not
Yeah.
going to have the wheel here, but I feel like maybe Matt's got some cool sound effects up his sleeve. So, Chris, what do we got on the wheel?
All right, so we have best cover song, most iconic riff, and how many albums to be iconic.
man, did we just tackle it? Why do we do this to ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the turmoil we put ourselves through. All right, so we're going to
All right,
spin the
ready?
wheel.
I got my fingers crossed on a particular one.
The suspense is killing me.
And it is a most iconic riff.
Oh yes.
Nice.
That's appropriate.
Oh yes.
I think it is.
I feel like Dan's got to kick us off here. Look at him.
Yeah, I
He's
think
jacked
Dan's got
up.
to throw this one
Okay.
out.
I will start us off.
If any of you steal mine, I'm going to be so fucking mad.
Well, that would just make that the winner.
Okay. Most iconic riff. I was really hoping that it would line up with this episode because
Shit, me too.
it's on the album that I picked.
I knew
I
you were
knew
going to
it.
do this.
Smoke
Yeah,
on
wait.
the Water. It's like
Yeah,
the
I
first
knew it.
song everyone learns on their guitar. It's the most like I didn't even know it was a Deep Purple song until I heard it on this album.
Are you in there too, Chris?
That
It's Smoke
is-
on the Water.
It's 100%. You pick up a guitar and you play one of two songs when you first hear it, and it all depends on when you were born.
Yeah.
You play Smoke on the Water or you play Seven Nation Army, and those are the two songs that anyone learns firstly on the guitar, but it's Smoke on the Water
Okay.
for sure.
So
Hands
Dan,
down.
You can't beat it.
Can't beat
Yeah,
it.
You
okay.
can't. It's
definitely
Good luck.
simplistically
Good luck, boys.
it's simplistically beautiful.
It's already two on this side.
It's so simple, it's perfect.
I couldn't
That-
agree more.
That riff got me in love with what I like to call riff rock. My buddy Greg Hood will literally send me songs. He's like, "You're gonna like this because there's a good riff in it." I am a sucker for a good riff, and that is the best riff ever written.
I'm going
Easily,
to
hands down.
I'm going to let you go next, Matt. And then I don't think I'm even going to bother. I'm just going to read out my short list real quick because I don't
Alright.
feel like I can beat.
So before I pick mine, I want to give 2 honorable mentions.
Okay. This is bullshit as usual.
So honorable mention number 1, and I guarantee you no one's going to agree with me whatsoever, but it's a riff, or it's a riff I really enjoy, is Cliffs of Dover, Eric Johnson.
How about new?
Most
I don't
iconic
even know it.
riff though, like that.
I don't
is
even
your
know
pick?
it.
And
I'm-
like,
No, this is why it's an honorable mention.
It's an honorable
Yo,
mention.
can you
He's mentioning
hum
it.
it for me,
Honorable.
Matt?
This is more like one that I really enjoy. I don't even think it would make iconic riff for, like, if you were to pick 100 people out there, I guarantee you no one
There's no way.
would mention it.
I
Chris
don't,
doesn't even
I don't
know
even
it.
know. I don't even know it. Hum it for me, Matt. Let me hear it.
You don't know it?
I don't know it.
So
Okay.
honorable mention number 2, and I was really close to picking this, is Johnny Be Good, Chuck Berry.
okay, that's
Yeah,
a big.
that was on my list.
That's
on my
That's
list.
a
That's on
monster
my list.
riff,
big one.
Yeah.
and it's timeless.
It's iconic because it was
That's-
like the first.
It's
Yeah.
on
Yes.
the golden
Yeah.
record, boys.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
it's
in
a
space.
timeless riff, and it's
in
been covered how
space.
many times and how
Oh
many
my
different fashions. So, but the
Chuck
one
Berry's going to be the reason some
That's an
interstellar
honorable mention.
species likes rock and roll.
that was
Yes.
So it was
hates
between
it.
Johnny Be Good and What I'm Going With, and what I'm going with.
That's the honorable mention.
Yep.
Don't say "Sweet
Okay.
Child of Mine," please.
Oh, Dan, come on, you're giving it away. You're giving away the
Really?
game.
Really?
Fuck, no, I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm doing that just to build it up. No,
Oh, man,
so
that was
what I'm going
intense.
with, Seven Nation Army. You can't.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That to me is the ultimate riff.
No. That was my number 2.
So that's got 2 mentions as well. So that's something. That means something.
Yeah.
Oh no, it doesn't.
Like, it's a
Oh,
monster.
garbage.
You got 2 solid picks for "Smoke on the Water" and
Yeah,
one
no, I know.
honorable mention and 1 actual pick. So
That's what I'm
it's-
saying.
So 2 golds, a bronze, and a
on-
silver.
It's
It's
up
in the
there.
conversation.
It's
Yeah,
up there.
again,
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's
Yeah.
a monster riff, monster song. It's been transformed how many times? Like, people everywhere around the world know that song in one way, shape, or form. Whether it's a sports anthem, whether it's the actual song itself. It's been remixed a few times too,
Yeah.
which turned into massive hits. Like, that is a big riff.
You know,
And
it's,
again-
you know, it's great too. That's the chorus of the song. Is that riff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And
It's-
again,
it's-
simplicity.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But isn't that what a riff is? A riff is a simple set of notes that just kill it. It's so hard to write a riff that's never been written before.
It's an earworm.
Yep. It gets in, it doesn't get out.
Yeah.
You're right.
And here's the thing: typically a riff sets the rhythm for the song, but an iconic riff has to also set the melody for the song. And so far, all of these have all of these great picks have. So
Okay.
all right.
So I'm going to read you my short list, boys, because
you
we've
got to make
already.
a pick, though. You got to make a pick.
I've made a pick. The top
Okay.
of my pick. The top of my list is my pick, so I'm going to read that one last. I'm going to read you my short list.
I hate these lists. I thought we were supposed to be.
We've already
a hot
decided.
take. Yeah,
we've
it's supposed to
we've
be a
already
hot
decided.
take.
We've already decided. So I'm changing the rules. Whatever. Okay. Here's my short list. Back in Black.
Okay.
It's it's solid. Yeah.
Classic.
It is good.
Yeah. Wonderwall. Matt, could you do this one? I feel like you've got the right.
I don't know if I could do that.
I don't
one.
feel like this fits.
No.
No, I don't think it's. I don't think that counts.
Shouldn't even have been on the list.
List, yeah, I don't feel
that
it.
can be
You know what? It
fun.
doesn't make you do. A good riff makes your head bang. That song doesn't make my head bang.
It's not a good riff.
All
No.
right.
Get
Calm your
out, you're
jets.
garbage.
Calm your jets. Ted Nugent, Stranglehold.
Okay.
Okay.
Not
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah. All right. Horrible song.
It's not
Good riff.
iconic enough.
You guys get it.
Yep, I get it.
Terrible.
The other one, Chris, I thought you were going to say when you said Seven Nation Army was Smells Like Teen Spirit.
That's
a
got to
good
be
one.
up there too.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Someone hit me with the snare. Right on. So we got an
I feel
acapella
like-
group.
I feel like the snare. See, again, I'm gonna argue. A good riff makes me headbang. That riff doesn't make me headbang until the snare comes in. Right? It needs assistance. Where the other two don't need assistance. But
It
but that's
needs
just my.
assistance.
That's just.
This riff
does.
needs assistance.
It needs some help.
Assistance to the riff, please. Johnny Be Good.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
that was
That's
it.
a
That was
big
it.
pick. That's a big pick.
Yeah. That's.
And that was
that's-
almost
yeah.
my pick. But the top
Yeah,
of my list,
that was like P2.
the top of my list was Smoke on the Water, Deep Purple.
Way to go.
I knew that's why you were
guys
shutting
in.
it down.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
decided.
Love it.
Such you guys.
Okay. It's so on my list, I had Johnny Be Good, I had Smoke on the Water, and Seven Nation Army.
I feel like we were all in the
So,
same
Three
ballpark.
really strong
Honestly,
picks.
guys, you guys suck. I
Right?
didn't even have a list. I had one riff of Smoke on the Wall.
So, but here's the thing. Yeah, my Smoke on the Water, it was super easy. Someone said riff, and I was like, yeah,
That's
like
it.
that's the
Yeah.
riff.
because
And then I was like, oh, what else? And then it was Seven Nation Army, and it was Johnny Be Good because I was in a Back to the Future mood. But there you get but that's it, right?
because
Good
I'm
stuff.
with you, Chris. The riff has to be unsupported.
Yes.
And that
That's
can be
that's
spot
the
on.
essence of the riff.
It's the flavor.
Essence.
The essence
Yeah, the
of
drums.
the riff.
The drums aren't the flavor. The
essence
riff is the
of
flavor.
riff.
Yeah.
If it has good
Wolf Mother
essence,
in there.
it doesn't require assistance.
Exactly.
That's what they
I
always
think
say.
Wolf Mother deserves some honorable mentions on so they know how to rip some riffs.
Not iconic enough. Guys,
they know
read
how to
the
rip. Same with-
assignment. Iconic.
Oh, well,
riff
I'm not
of
saying-
I
all
thought the
time.
assignment
saying-
said make lots of suggestions and
Yes,
don't
yeah.
really settle on anything. Wasn't that the assignment?
It's a hot take.
Monster Truck. You guys want some riff rock? Check out Hamilton's very best
Yo,
Monster,
Truck is sick.
I'm gonna check
Yeah,
them out.
Monster Truck is awesome.
Are they like
Yo,
stoner
they-
rock?
I would straight up call them riff rock. Literally
riff rock.
every song is just a riff.
There's a
and
reason why
headbanging.
they tour with Big Rack.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And
sound like them.
but do you know what though? I saw them alive at Bonnaroo, and they put them in this like tent with no security guards for moshing, and literally the crowd destroyed the place because it's like mosh pit central.
Yeah.
It's even like more riff rock than like Big Wreck. People go nuts, and they're loud, and they wear all denim. I'm pretty sure they wear the same denim jacket. Like, they wear denim jackets.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, cut off denim, like,
So they're
vests
really
with
cool.
with no shirt underneath. And they
find-
just sweat up a storm, and you can see the sweat stains, and they just have, like, Canada flags shoved down their pants, and they're just, like, running around like animals.
I find they're like Audio Slave without Chris Cornell.
Oh, well, wait, no, that's, wait, really?
Yeah.
Monster Truck?
Yeah. No?
I don't see it. But
That's still quite the compliment.
Oh, it's yeah. I wouldn't go that far. Like, I love Monster Truck, and I don't think they're on the same page as that.
I wouldn't say they're on the
There you-
same page, but like sound wise.
But it's the vibe.
Oh, okay.
It's the vibe.
Okay. All right.
You guys got anything else?
No,
I think
No,
we're
I
good.
think that's it.
It's pretty
I think that
solid,
wraps
yeah.
it up.
Okay, so
Smoke on the water.
So, Deep Purple, Machine Head, listen to PUP, Morbid stuff. We got Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Infest, the Rat's Nest. I think Deep Purple wins the day today in terms of turning it up to 11 because
Booyah!
not only were they one of the album choices, they also won the hot take. Get out there,
3
listen
to
to those
1.
things. Get to your record stores, have a dig. Also, before we leave, just a shout out to Les Paul and Leo Fender. Without their innovations, we wouldn't be talking about things
That's
turned
very
up to
true.
11.
That's
They
a
brought us the
great
modern
point.
electric guitar. So that's awesome. Crank it up. Bang your head.
How can we do an episode and not mention Spinal Tap?
He did right at the
I
beginning.
mentioned them
You
at the
were-
start.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Turn
well,
it up
wasn't
to
listening.
11.
Well, I know.
I've been
I
saying
got
turn
the
everything up to 11.
but I didn't hear the mention of Spinal Tap.
He,
But
They were
said,
one of
he
the-
said
they were one
Spinal
of the
Tap and had quotes from the
Dot
movie.
points things.
oh my
in the-
god!
in
Wow,
his
the dogs
intro.
were snoring too loud. I couldn't hear it.
Welcome to the episode, Chris. Cut all
Fuck
that
me.
out. All right,
Oh, that's
I'm
it.
gonna
That's,
dash.
Sorry.
No, do
I'm
not
gonna-
cut that out. Do not cut that
I'm
out.
like, what an idiot!
Don't
This
cut
guy's
that
an
out.
idiot.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser! Good. Good. More for me and you.
Do all the stuff with the liking and the subscribing and the emailing. Greatexpectationspod@gmail.com. Send us a note. Maybe send Chris some reminders or something. And until next time, keep digging and spinning.
Peace.
Cheers.
This is a top to what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
The Groovy Guys are Tom Kennedy, Dan Lozier, Chris Palumbo, and Matt Carvalho. With your host, Tom Kennedy. Music by Dan Lozier, post-production by Matt, and album art by Chris.